Good morning. Today we are going to talk about creating a quality listing on eBay. So quality listing can mean lots of different things to lots of different people, especially depending on what niche you're selling in. So kind of take the tidbits of what I say and try to apply it to what you sell. And sometimes throughout our eBay journey, we'll change niches and we'll sell different things. So and this won't always apply to everybody all the time. So you just have to kind of take what I say and see how it'll apply to you. So, one of the big things that doesn't get talked about enough, I don't think, when we're talking about doing a quality listing, anybody can say title, item specifics, description. So, like with all the other library calls, I try to talk about things that maybe don't get talked about as much. One of them is compliance and policy awareness. So, all this is going to be different depending on what you sell, but like keyword spamming, I still see a lot of it. And I feel like with AI, keyword spamming is going to start getting caught onto a lot more. So you cannot put like a person's, like a brand name in a title if it's not truly that brand name. So we can't say Coogee like, Coogee style, things like that. We can't say that. That is keyword spamming. So keyword spamming, big no-no, stay away from it. Yes, I know there's lots of listings up like that. However, I wouldn't do it. Be mindful of intellectual property issues. Again, I think with AI, it's going to get pickier and pickier, and they're going to delve down on it. So we all know about intellectual property issues. Do not state that something is, if it's screen printed on a shirt but not licensed, if you can't date it as vintage and maybe those weren't tagged in a certain way, then don't list it, because anybody can put John Deere on a hat. Does that mean it's a John Deere hat? No, it will get you in trouble. Know your Vero program in whatever you're selling in. So know what is an issue in your niche and make sure is it all encompassing? Can you get a Vero on something not on the Vero list? Absolutely, you can. So I get that that's not super helpful, but it can help you know what's going on currently, what's more likely to get hit. So the big one I see is NWT, or new with tags, or just plain new. If you're not an authorized distributor of an item, do not be surprised when your item gets policy violation, and lots of times it'll say counterfeit. Why will it say counterfeit if the item in fact is not counterfeit? It's counterfeit because you can't sell that new item because you're not an authorized distributor. If you're not an authorized distributor, you can't sell it as new. Can't sell it with new with tags. Are there a lot of them up and out there? Absolutely there are. Do I want to get hit, my whole entire store hit with policy violations in one day for everything I have new? Nope, sure don't. So if I'm not an authorized distributor, you will not find it in my store as new. Sometimes it is new, right? Sometimes I'll say that it's on card, right? Does that mean I'm saying it's new? No, I'm saying it's on the original card. So also I've heard of people getting hit with when we show the tags on, especially the first picture, like the tags in the first picture indicating that it is new, but we're listing it as used. That's like, I can't remember what they call it, but basically it's contradicting each other. So I don't know. I've not had that happen personally, but watch out for that. Make sure that you're up on the up and up. If you sell clothing, be visible in the clothing boards, on Facebook and stuff. Put your ear out so that you know what's going on. Is everybody getting like a Johnny Was Vero or something? So at least if it happens, maybe you'll get a heads up. So pay attention to those things. It's really important, and it's a really easy way to accidentally lose your eBay store. So we don't want that to happen. So we've talked about it in other videos, to get our listing started, quality listing started. Lots of people like to use Sell Similar. I use Sell Similar too every day, but I sell similar off my own items. Crystal and I, before we started recording, we're talking about my big lesson with Sell Similar and how I sold similar off somebody else's listing, and that person accepted all offers automatically on the back end. And I didn't see that when I sold similar off. And I sold a really expensive World War II sweetheart bracelet for $10 because it auto accepted the offer, because on the back end of that person's listing, they had accept all offers. Of course, I called eBay all mad and having a fit saying, I didn't accept this. It shouldn't have accepted that, and I was all mad. And they could see where I had sold similar off somebody else's item and pointed it out to me. That's what happened. Learned my lesson, right? I've been told not to do it. I did it anyway. That's what happened. So can you do lots of people with no issues? Sure. Do you pull in things from the back end off of other people's accounts that I don't want in my store, like shipping policies, auto accept offers, international shipping policies? that maybe you'll miss and you don't realize now are turned on your listing? Absolutely. It happens every single day. So I would not recommend it, but of course you can do whatever you want. I find that I can sell similar. It doesn't need to be perfect, right? So as long as it's an old brooch, I can sell a vintage brooch off of it. As long as it's a like item. And in fact, people ask me about my process, which has been changing mostly due to age, because my thumb will not allow me to list all my items on my phone anymore. And I'm super fast on my phone. So I've been trying to find a new way that is, more ergonomically safe for me not to blow out my joint. And I have been selling similar. I'll take all my pictures and then I sell similar off of, let's say, a brooch. And then I go into that draft and then I hit copy. And then if I have 5 brooches to list or 10 brooches to list or whatever it is, I hit copy and then put number 5, and it'll automatically populate 5 or 10 of those sell similar listings for me in my draft bank. I just move the pictures over, easy peasy, we're all done. So that's been so far my most efficient way I have found to take over the phone listing that I was really fast at, because I just can't do it. My thumb's sore and it hurts, and I knew it wasn't gonna keep going, so I had to find a different way. We pivot when things don't work. So I do sell similar off my own items, and I recommend you doing that. The titles. Okay, so I'll admit 3 months ago, I would have told you something totally different about titles. I would have told you that I do like vintage if it's vintage, and I always spell out vintage. That I stick beside, I spell out vintage. I think it returns searches better. So if it's vintage, I'll put vintage first. I still do that. Brand, if it's a really good brand, next. If it's a brand that nobody's searching for or very little people are searching for, I do not put it next, right? So I put whatever people are searching for in the first 3 to 5 words. I do still believe that to be correct. However, I would have told you that I would follow the BIGS acronym, the brand, item, gender, size, right? I definitely would have told you that. But now, I don't know that I still believe that. And that's a big statement for me to say. I believe that AI and how AI scans for titles and how AI scans for searchability, um, I, I really think it's changing the way people are searching and the way the eBay search algorithm works. So me, I am titling things more and how I believe somebody's going to search and how somebody is going to put that into eBay. So like if it's a vintage rhinestone brooch, I'm still putting vintage rhinestone brooch and then the rest. But I do think that it's important to recognize that things are changing in the searches and the search algorithms and how information is being exchanged on our platforms that we sell on. So while it's changing a little bit, I would spell out vintage if it's vintage. If it's a good brand, I would still put that next. But then the other words, it kind of just needs to make sense. Make sure that you're not putting in a bunch of words that don't get searched, right? So I wouldn't put a date up front unless the date is the most important part of it, right? So it just needs to, how would you search for that item if you were looking at it and didn't know what it was? Look at your item and say, what would I put in if I wanted to find this item? So that's how I am now doing my titles. It's a little bit different than how I would have done it before. Photos. We got to put the right photo in that first picture to get people to click on it. There are lots of thumbnail pictures that I can't even tell what it is when I'm scrolling by. So why would I ever stop on them? Right? I wouldn't stop on it because I don't know what it is. So if you have a whole bunch of jewelry and it's in a little bitty picture and I can't even tell what it is because they look like ants on a board, right? I'm probably not even going to stop on it. So you got to look on your phone and scroll through your actives and scroll through your listings like you were the ones shopping for it on your phone, because that's where most of our customers are coming from, is the phone, and see, would I stop on that listing? And if you wouldn't, what can you do different? Maybe pull out the bright color of the item. So we like do a close up on the picture of the rhinestones that are really bright or really unique, or we just want to highlight what's going to make somebody click. So highlight that really sparkly piece, highlight the unique shape. We still want to know what the item is, but you need to zoom in a little bit on that first picture to make it clickable, make it interesting. And then I don't understand the issue with people saying it's taken them hours to download photos, or that they just seem to struggle with themselves to get the photos from wherever they're taking them to the listing. I don't understand it. I don't really get where that confusion is. If you are having that problem, contact me. I will help you, because it pains me to hear people say they're taking hours to move photos. I will say I move the photos on mobile. So I take them and I create the listing and I create the draft on my computer, but then I will just thumb over my pictures into the drafts because it's just so easy. I just hit add photos and move them over. But if you're using the desktop, you can choose the upload for mobile on the desktop. You can choose Google Drive to move them over. There's all sorts of ways that we can do that. So it should not be a painful process moving your pictures over. I personally don't use a camera because I found it clunky and time consuming. There's some people that swear by the camera. You need to do what you find is best for you. If you are struggling with this part of your process, change it. There's no need to keep struggling, right? Don't do it just because I do it a certain way. Don't do it because you see other YouTubers do it a different way. Do it what works for you. So if the phone works best for you, roll with it. Camera works best for you, great. Item specifics. This is where I get a lot of slack from a lot of jewelry sellers, because I only fill in the item specifics that I feel are completely necessary selling my item. If people aren't searching for it, I'm not taking the time to fill it in. So lots of times I fill in whether the materials, the rhinestone, enamel. I think in clothing, sometimes we have to fill in maybe a little bit more because, the type of material, where it came from, if it increases the value, is important. Patterns are important. So if it's important to what you sell and people in that niche are searching for that specific, then we need to put it in. But do I feel like I need to put in measurements in the description, photo, and the item specifics? Not usually. But in clothing, you probably do, because people are searching in that left-hand navigation with size, right? But maybe with what I'm doing, like a brooch, I don't feel like they need to know that it's an 1.25 inches in item specifics. I don't feel like that's selling more brooches for me. So you need to decide what are important selling factors in your item. And then that's what I believe needs to be done in the item specifics. If you go into my store, which is Plush and Much on eBay, everybody knows it. I'm pretty public with it. You will see I don't fill in a lot of item specifics, and I do find I don't have a big issue with INADs because of it or anything like that. So just what's pertaining to me. Descriptions, I keep them short. So if you go into my store, you'll also see that my description basically is my template about highlighting things about my store that makes my store like, why should you buy from me? Like that I ship the next day and that I have over 3,000 jewelry listings. And please don't forget to put click that heart by my name so you can follow my store so you don't miss. I list new items every day. Things like that. I love to take offers, just in a little synopsis of the reason that you should buy from me instead of a different jewelry seller. But at the very first line, if there's something flawed with the item or something unique about the item, in capital letters, I will put, missing rhinestone, or this is a really heavy brooch, or the prongs are bent on this item, or there is some gold tone wear. I will put that as my very first line in capital letters in the description. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. I don't feel people read them anyway. And if they're on mobile, most of the time they can't see the dang description anyway until they hit that extra thing that says see full description, which most people aren't. I do put read in capital letters in my title if I have a big flaw that I think needs pointed out, because I think that makes them more likely to hit that read full description. So our pictures are still our best description. Our pictures are always our best description. So make sure that your pictures tell the whole story. But then I do point it out in the description simply because I want to, help out not getting INADs and returns, because nobody really wants those. They're no fun. So I keep it short. I put it in sometimes bold, always in caps, but I'm not writing a book about it because I don't think anybody really cares. I don't think they're really looking for it. So if it's unique, it makes people more, want to buy that item or pay more for the item, put it in. Otherwise, I don't think it's worth our time. So top rated plus, understand your requirements to be top rated plus. It doesn't work for everybody, and it's not a deal breaker if you don't have it, right? But for me, top rated plus, I save a lot of money on the fees, right? So you get a certain percent off of the final value fees. It doesn't make the final value fees less, but you get, I think it's 10% off of the fees that you do pay. And if you're a high volume seller, it really adds up. So, and you also get the little top rated seller badge and all that good stuff. So, make sure that we are understanding the requirements. So we need to have the free returns, and we need to have 1 day or same day handling. And I need to have 1 day handling anyway, because otherwise I'd get behind. And if you need 3 day handling, because that's the only way you can get it done and make sure you don't have late shipments, that's fine. Go with 3 day handling. Top rated plus is not for you. Not a big deal. I'd rather have you not be getting the violations and all that issues on your account. So make sure the benefits, you know what they are, and you pick which one outweighs the other. So for me, being top rated plus is important. It's not the end of the world if you're not, but just know. In my opinion, on both titles and descriptions, it's much better to leave something out than to put something that's not quite right. So if I don't know that that stone is turquoise, you better believe I'm not putting turquoise in the title. I'm not doing it. I'll put blue stone if I'm not sure. Do not put a claim that you can't back up if it gets returned or an INAD. It's better just to leave it off. I know a lot of people will put like gold plated or what, and they can't really, they're not sure, but it looks gold plated. Well, if it gets returned, can you prove it? Is it marked that way? If you can't, just leave it off. Let them decide by your pictures what it is, right? It's better to just leave it out and let them decide with your photos. So watch in AI listings. In lots of the listing programs, I will see things that they inserts into the description that isn't true. Sometimes it's completely off base what your item is. You have to read through it. I also don't like the AI descriptions anyway. I think it's flowery and fake. And the minute I see a listing with it, if I'm trying to buy, it turns me off, because I think what can I believe because a computer wrote this? And you can tell the computer wrote this. Like, is it true? Did they proof check it? Like, we don't know. So I just don't use it. But so just watch for any of the Chat GPT even. I will put a picture of something in it because sometimes it's completely wrong. So do I go with that title? No, I don't, right? Do I ever use Chat GPT to help me come up with things to put in the title that maybe I didn't think of? Yes. So use them as a tool, but you are the primary tool to list your items. You are the end all be all decision maker, and that has to stay that way no matter if you're using listing software or not, or we lose control of our businesses, and that's just no good. So I think if you follow those things, which are very easy and doesn't seem like, well, there's not really a lot to that. There's really not a lot to it. But taking the really good pictures and having a title that isn't misleading and isn't full of spam words, I wouldn't worry about using all the characters either. I use as many characters as there is to accurately describe the item and for people to find my item. I don't jam it full of a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. I think that actually hurts us, in my opinion. If you want to know if your title is accurate or will be the best way to find items, go search for items that are like your items and change a few words around and see which one gives you the best search results, right? We don't want a super narrow search result because that narrows down the amount of people that are going to see our item. So if I search earring instead of earrings, and earrings makes my search, let's say, go to half, do I want half as many people finding my item? No, I want a broader audience. So that's why you'll see in my listings a lot of time it'll say vintage rhinestone brooch instead of vintage purple rhinestone brooch. Do I want just the people looking for purple to see it? No, I want people everywhere to see that like rhinestones to see it, not just the people looking for purple ones. Do I put purple under my main stone color or maybe later in the title? Yes. And I still think that pertains to the search today. Do I think that we should spend a whole bunch of time going backwards in our old listings? I don't know. It depends on if you were brand new a year ago and you have a bunch of old listings. Yes, definitely. If you feel that you were similarly experienced a year ago, then I feel like our time's better spent moving forward and getting more listings up. But if you were new and you are, I learn new stuff. Boy, I think I really grow probably every 3 to 4 months. I feel like I've really learned something new or gotten better at things. I learn all the time. So I will go back and I'll tweak things sometimes, but most of the time I'm just moving forward. I think when we spend a lot of time handling our items, we really could just be growing and pushing forward ahead with new listings. But if you are relatively new, you could probably benefit from taking what you learn and going backwards. So, and also I put my measurements as the very last thing in the listing at the top. If they're on mobile, they probably don't see it because it cuts it off. Also know on mobile that like the first 5 pictures are the only ones they see without hitting the more button. So we want those first 5 pictures. If we're putting the measurements in, make sure you're getting those in the first 5 photos, or lots of times they get cut off. So that is my basics, I guess, for a quality listing. And while it seems simple, and it doesn't seem to, it really is kind of simple. That's really the basics of it. Does anybody have any questions on creating the most optimized, the best listing possible that we can make for eBay? If we don't have any questions, I will wrap this library session up, and hopefully it was somewhat informative. Next week, we are going to do promotions and markdowns. And I want to do a really good job on that because I feel like we don't, it's hard to talk about, and I don't talk about it a lot because I feel like there's no one way to fit everybody because everybody's goals are different, everybody's end game looks different. But I want to be able to help people make their own decisions with what they should do or what works best for them or how to try things out to work best for them. So I appreciate everybody checking it out today, and follow us on Reseller Revenue on Patreon if you want to join our calls. We talk about the stuff like this all the time. You can get some one-on-one advice or from the group. We'll give you advice if you have a listing question, pricing question, sourcing question, and just a lot of good heads all get together there.